Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to explain about finally block in Java. So first of all, what is the purpose of finally block? So finally block is used to place the closing statements. They have given the finally block. In finally block, right, you will write the closing statements. What are the closing statements? That resource releasing logic. Resource releasing logic you will place inside the finally block. So what is the resource? See, so when your Java application, this is your Java application. It's your Java program. Is your Java program. And from your Java program, if you want to connect with any resource, so first of all, you should know, so what is the resource? Means you are trying to connect with a file, image file, audio file, video file, text file, PDF file, Excel file, anything. Or if you are connecting with the database to store or to process the data, or if you are connecting with any other resource, nothing but in any input or output device, IO device, printer, scanner, anything, printer, scanner, anything. If you are connecting with a file, database, or input or output device, right, that connection is possible from the Java program. The connection logic you have to place in a try block. Here you will write, suppose connection equals to, we open the connection. Here you can connect to anything. Of course, I'm not writing the complete code. I'm just explaining how to write the code. So whenever we open that, right, it will be connected to that resource. It will be connected. So inside the try block, we are writing the opening logic. In case any problem, suppose if the file is not available, or if the database is not available, then chance of getting exception, we will handle the exception with your code. That resource is not available. Simple message that resource is not available. That is. And if you want to close, see, after working with every resource, you must close that connection. This is mandatory. So why, I'll explain why we have to close that connection. See, after working with the computer, if you want to power off the system, what you will do? You will click on the shutdown button. So why you click on the shutdown button? Why can't we switch off just like television? Right? Because see, whenever we close like this, we are thinking everything closed. No. Still the desktop is running. Desktop means what? Is operating system is running. Operating system is running on the desktop. I mean, right? So in the background, operating system is executing. So you have to close that program. Operating system files you have to close. When you click on the shutdown button, it will close. So for example, without shutdown, if I switch off, what will happen? So that is nothing but abnormal termination. Suddenly, if you terminate the program, next time if you try to boot up your computer, when you are trying to start your computer, it will not start. It will give you the error message. So what is that? Please format your operating system, or please repair your operating system because you lost some of the files in operating system. Right? So what is that meaning? So whenever there is an abnormal termination, right, some of the files you will lose, or the data what you have trying to update, that will not be updated in the file or in the database. That's why, right, after working with the resource, it is mandatory to close that resource. The closing statements you must place in finally block. In finally block, when you place, then only it will be executed and it will be closed. And some more points you need to understand about the finally block. So finally block executes in every situation, whether or not an exception has raised in the try block. If no exception, or in case of exception also, it will execute. Sir, why in every situation we have to execute? For example, you are performing the ATM transaction. In ATM transaction process, for example, you are using the resource. You are using the resource in ATM transaction to perform the transaction. Right? Into the machine, you are inserting the ATM card. Insert ATM card. That ATM card is called resource that you have inserted into the machine. So machine collects that ATM card now. Now, if your transaction is a success or your transaction is a failed, in both cases, it has to release ATM card after transaction. Of course, for any reason, if transaction failed also, it has to release the ATM card. In two situations, if you want to execute any logic, suppose if catch block is there, catch block executes only if exception occurs. Try block completely executes if there is no exception. So nothing but based on situations only, catch and try execute. Sir, I want to execute complete try block code. Impossible. Suppose in the middle, if exception occurs, then try block will not execute. Catch block execute only when exception occurs. If no exception, catch block will not execute. If exception, try block will not execute. But either it is a success case or it is a failure case. In both cases, I want to execute some code. Then you have to put it in which block? In finally block, you have to place. In finally block. So finally block executes in every situation, whether exception raised or not. Let me explain with one example. I'm just writing all the three: try block, next one is a catch block, and next one is a finally block. All the three. I'm writing the statement here. It is a try block, is a try. And next one here, I'm writing that exception. And here it is catch block, I'm writing catch. And in a finally block, I'm writing that finally system.out.println, that finally block I'm writing. The three blocks I defined, that try block, catch block, and finally block. All the three blocks I defined. Now let me show you the situations when try block occurs. Means what? When you write int a is equals to 10/5. Any exception here? No exception here. When there is no exception, right, it will execute the try block. Catch block will not execute because no exception. And finally block execution compulsory. So output of this program is a try and finally block. So for example, if you are writing the 10/0, this is exception code na? When exception occurs, the try block will not execute. Directly it will jump to which block? Catch block. See, if there is exception, the try block will not execute. It will jump to the catch block. And in the failure case also, finally block execution compulsory. See, catch and finally. Right? So finally block execute in every situation, either in a success case or in a failure case, in both. Sir, how to connect with the resource, how to open file and how to close the file, the problems will come. Right? In IO concept, right? In IO except means what? In input output concept, streams concept, I'll explain briefly about working with the files. And in database, in JDBC, I'll explain how to work with the database, how to open connection and how to close the connection. I'll explain. There we use the finally block anyway. Okay, hope you understood what is finally block in Java exactly. Please practice. Thank you.